the Golden Owl Podcast.
Speak better, fly higher.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Golden Owl Podcast. I am Daniel.
And I am Maya. And we are so happy you are here with us today.
Genuinely happy. Like every time we sit down to record one of these episodes, we think about the fact that real people are going to listen to this. And that still feels kind of amazing to us.
It really does. And we do read your comments, all of them. So if you have ever left us a comment, thank you. We see it, we read it, and it honestly makes our day.
It makes our week, honestly. So please keep them coming. And if you're new here and you are enjoying this, hit that subscribe button and give us a like. It helps us so much more than you probably realize.
It really does. It helps other people find us too. People who are on the same journey as you. So thank you for that, seriously.
Okay, so today we are talking about something very personal to both of us. We are talking about how we actually learned English, not the classroom version of the story. The real version.
The embarrassing version.
The embarrassing, messy, talking to your television version.
Which, as you will hear, turned out to be the version that actually worked.
Yes, Maya. You know what I was thinking about this morning? I was making breakfast, right? Just standing in the kitchen, and I started thinking about the first time I tried to have a real conversation in English. Like a real one, not in a classroom, not with the teacher, just me and another person.
Oh no. Was it bad?
It was terrible, Maya. I mean, truly. I knew the words, I studied, I did the exercises, I passed the tests, but the moment someone actually spoke to me, my brain just stopped, like someone turned off the lights.
I know that feeling so well. It is like you have all the pieces of the puzzle, but you cannot put them together fast enough when someone is actually waiting for your answer.
Exactly. And the worst part is, I had been studying for years at that point. Years. And I still felt like a beginner the moment real life showed up.
So what did you do? Because clearly something changed for you.
Well, that is actually the interesting part. Because the thing that changed everything for me was not something a teacher told me to do. It was kind of an accident. I was watching a TV show, an American one, and I started copying the way the characters spoke, like out loud. I would pause the show and just repeat what they said, trying to sound exactly like them. The same rhythm, the same stress on the words, the same pauses.
Wait, so you were shadowing? You just kind of discovered it on your own.
I did not even know it had a name back then. I thought I was just being weird. But yes, that is exactly what it was. I was shadowing without knowing it was a real technique.
That is so funny because I had a similar kind of accidental moment. Mine was with reading. Not reading silently, which is what everyone does, but reading out loud. And I remember my mom walking into my room and giving me this very confused look because I was sitting there reading a book and just speaking to myself.
She probably thought you had lost it.
She absolutely did. But I kept doing it because I noticed something. When I read out loud, I actually remembered the words much better, and my pronunciation improved, even though nobody was correcting me. It was like my mouth was learning the language separately from my brain.
That is such a good way to put it. And I think that's the thing about reading out loud that people underestimate. It's not just about understanding the meaning. You are training your mouth, your tongue, your breath. You are making the sounds automatic.
And when things are automatic, you don't have to think about them when you're speaking, which means your brain is free to focus on what you actually want to say.
Right. Because that's the real problem, is it not? When you're a learner, you're thinking about grammar, about vocabulary, about pronunciation, about everything at the same time. It's too much. And the only way to reduce that pressure is to make some of those things automatic through practice.
I remember reading somewhere that it's a bit like driving a car. When you first learn, you have to think about every single thing. The mirror, the speed, the gear, where your hands are. But after a while, most of it just happens, and then you can actually focus on the road.
That's a perfect comparison. And I think reading out loud is one of the fastest ways to make pronunciation and rhythm automatic, because you're doing it slowly, carefully, and you can hear yourself.
Exactly. And you can stop whenever you want. You can go back, you can try the same sentence 5 times until it feels natural, which you obviously can't do in a real conversation.
So for me, shadowing was the big one. For you, it was reading out loud, but I know you also used some other techniques. What else worked for you?
Okay, so this one sounds strange when I describe it, but stick with me. I started learning English in chunks, not word by word, but in phrases. So instead of learning the word want and then trying to remember to put it in a sentence, I learned I want to, I would like to, I'm thinking about, the whole chunk together.
And that is actually how native speakers think, is it not? They do not build sentences one word at a time. They have these ready-made pieces that they just slot together.
Yes, and once I started doing that, my English started sounding much more natural because I was not translating from my own language anymore. I had these English-shaped pieces already in my head.
I love that. English-shaped pieces, because that is exactly what it feels like when it is working, like you are thinking in a different shape.
And the chunks also help with fluency, right? Because if you already know, I am looking forward to as one unit, you do not pause in the middle of it. It comes out smooth.
That is a big deal. The pauses and the hesitations are often what make someone sound less confident, even if their grammar is perfect. And chunking removes a lot of those pauses because you're pulling out whole phrases instead of building them on the spot.
I also noticed that chunking helped me understand native speakers better, because when you listen and you recognize a chunk, you process it instantly. You don't have to decode it piece by piece.
That is such a good point. Listening comprehension is a huge part of this, and I think a lot of learners focus only on speaking and forget that your ability to listen is just as important, maybe more important.
Definitely. And actually, shadowing helped me with listening too, not just speaking. Because when you try to imitate someone, you have to really pay attention to how they sound. You notice things you would completely miss if you were just passively listening.
Like what?
Like the way words connect together. In natural speech, we don't say each word separately. We say them like glued together. So want to becomes wanna, going to becomes gonna, did you becomes didya. And when you try to shadow it, you really hear that.
And then suddenly, when you are listening to a podcast or a film, those sounds make sense to you because your ear has been trained to recognize them.
Exactly. It's like you decoded a secret language.
I had a moment like that, actually. I was on the phone with someone from the United States, a complete stranger, and suddenly I just understood everything, like every word, every sentence, even when they spoke fast. And I remember thinking, when did this happen? How did I get here?
That's such a good feeling. It kind of sneaks up on you.
It really does, because progress in language learning is not always obvious while it's happening. You practice, and it feels like nothing is changing. And then one day, you just realize you're doing something you couldn't do before.
I think that's one of the hardest things about learning a language. The results are delayed. You put in the work today, but you might not see the benefit for weeks or months. And that makes it really easy to give up.
And I think the techniques we're talking about help with that too, in a way, because they are more enjoyable than traditional studying. Shadowing a show you actually like, reading a book you're genuinely interested in, these things do not feel like homework.
That's so important. I think a big reason why people plateau, where they stop improving after a certain point, is because they keep doing things that feel like studying, and their brain starts to resist it.
Right. Your brain doesn't want to do boring things, but it will happily spend an hour listening to a podcast or watching something engaging, and language is being absorbed the whole time.
I spent so much time watching cooking shows in English, and I think I learned more from those than from any course book because I was emotionally involved in what was happening. I cared about the result, and that emotional connection makes the language stick.
Oh, I completely believe that. Emotion is such a powerful memory tool. If something makes you laugh or surprises you or makes you curious, you remember it.
And the language that comes with it.
Yes. So you are not just learning the word disappointed, you are learning it in a moment when the chef burned the cake and everyone in the room went quiet. Now you will never forget it.
That is it, exactly. Context and emotion. That is what makes vocabulary real, not flashcards. Well, flashcards can help too. I'm not saying they're bad.
No, tools are tools. Different things work for different people and at different stages. But I think the problem is when people rely only on the passive stuff, just reading about grammar, just watching videos about English without ever actually producing anything themselves.
Yes, there is a difference between knowing about a language and knowing a language, and you only get to the second one by using it, speaking it, writing it, reading it aloud, shadowing it, getting your body involved, not just your eyes and your brain.
I think about it like learning to cook. You can read every recipe book in the world, watch every cooking video, understand every technique, but until you actually stand in the kitchen and make something, you're not a cook. You're just someone who knows things about cooking.
I love that. You can be very knowledgeable about a thing and still not be able to do it.
And I think a lot of English learners are in that position. They know a lot about English. They know the grammar rules. They know vocabulary. They can explain things. But they freeze when they have to actually use it because knowing and doing are two very different skills.
So what would you say to someone who is in that situation, who has been studying for years but still feels stuck?
I would say stop adding new knowledge for a while. Instead, take what you already know and use it. Speak it, even alone. Read it aloud. Find a show or a podcast and shadow the parts that interest you. Because your problem is probably not that you know too little. It is that you have not made what you know automatic yet.
And I would say find something in English that you genuinely enjoy, not something you think you should study, something that actually makes you happy or excited or curious. Because if you enjoy it, you will do it more. And if you do it more, you will improve. It really is that simple.
Simple, but not easy.
No, definitely not easy. Consistent, though. That's the word I would use. Not intense, not perfect, just consistent. A little bit every day beats a big effort once a week.
Absolutely. And I think that's something both of us learned the hard way. There were periods where I tried to do these massive study sessions and then burned out and did nothing for 2 weeks. And that is so much worse than just 30 minutes a day.
Your brain needs time to process and absorb. Sleep is actually a big part of language learning. You practice something, you sleep, and while you're sleeping, your brain is organizing everything and making the connections stronger.
So going to sleep after a good shadowing session is actually productive.
Very productive. I'm going to start telling people that sleeping is part of my English study routine.
Put it on your CV. Fluent English learner, 8 hours a night.
Languages studied, 6 to 8 hours daily.
You know, we have talked about a lot of techniques today, but I think the thing underneath all of it is just the attitude, the willingness to be a little bit uncomfortable, to try things that feel strange, to sound silly sometimes, to make mistakes.
Yes, because nobody learns a language by being perfect. You learn it by being imperfect 1,000 times and slowly getting less imperfect.
And the people who get fluent are not the most talented or the smartest. They're usually just the ones who kept going.
And who found a way to enjoy the process, even on the hard days.
Even on the days when your brain turns off and someone is standing in front of you waiting for an answer.
Even then.
Yeah, even then you learn something. Even the terrible moments teach you something.
Honestly, some of my most embarrassing English moments are the ones I remember most clearly, and the language from those moments is burned into my memory forever.
There is something in that. Discomfort is memorable.
Which is maybe why shadowing works so well, because at first it feels completely ridiculous. You're sitting there talking to your television.
Talking to your television, trying to sound like someone else, pausing and rewinding, you look absolutely bizarre.
But then one day someone says, "Wow, your English sounds really natural." And you think, yes, it does, because I talked to my television for 6 months.
Worth it.
Completely worth it.
Okay, that's all for today. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you in the next episode.
See you next time.